Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm and you are watching second part of What If Naruto Became a Predator. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Tsunade was relieved to see Hinata had arrived safely in Konoha, as she had heard about how the infamous demon who makes trophies out of shinobi had been in the young girl's presence for well over a minute, and thought it odd to hear how he, from what Hinata described of the enigma's figure, had saved Hinata from Mizuki. The traitor's death was brutal, but it was fitting for someone of Mizuki's stature given his past actions against the Leaf and, especially, Naruto. Thank you for giving me this report right away, Neji, and you as well, Hinata. Because of you two, we now have an accurate description of this person, and will make it very difficult for him to hide, Tsunade said, as she had the description written down in the bingo book with an artistic picture to help match the description. It was our pleasure, Hokage-sama, but there is something bothering me that I'd like to share with you, Hinata said, as she noticed Tsunade raise an eyebrow at her and then looked at Neji to see if he wanted to hear this as well. What exactly is bothering you, Hinata-sama? Neji asked, knowing that whatever was bothering his cousin could be related to this mission and this demon they had met. To be honest, Neji-ni-san, I'm not sure, but when the demon killed Mizuki, he retreated after you appeared, and before leaving, he mentioned how we had both grown, almost as if he knew us from another lifetime, Hinata said, as she saw Tsunade raise an eyebrow and Neji deep in thought about that moment. I don't know of such a person in all our years growing up, Hinata-sama, Neji said, seeing Hinata nod her head in agreement, and Tsunade seemed perplexed as well. Still, it is a possible clue to this guy's identity, and look into that on your own time since you two look like you could rest for a bit. Even if we didn't capture this guy, I'm glad you both came back unharmed, and possibly beat this guy in the long run, Tsunade said, dismissing them. Even if we do get this guy in the long run, from what they told us, a lot more people will die before that happens, and each death will be worse, Jiraiya said as he appeared on a window and saw Tsunade staring at him now. Which is why I sent you out to find Naruto while training and protecting from such a threat. Exclaimed Tsunade, having nearly thrown her entire office out the window when Jiraiya told her he couldn't find the blonde Gaki and directed her wrath at him. I know, Tsunade-heim. I tried finding Naruto. I did everything I could think of, but I am unable to find him and do what I should have done when he was growing up in the Leaf to ensure he got the protection he deserved, Jiraiya said, seeing Tsunade flinch at that because they both ignored their godparent duties and were in reality cowards for it.
Whatever the stupid Gaki is doing, I only hope Naruto is getting stronger and staying the hell away from this guy, Tsunade said as she slumped back into her chair and looked out the window behind her to see the Hokage monument. The life that this village had when Naruto was there had long since passed, and it seemed painfully
hollow without him. You and me both, Tsunade, Jiraiya said as he exited the same way he came in, looking for something to do before going out to find Naruto again. Ichiraku Ramen Stand, 2 days later. I miss Naruto, Choji said as he ate his ramen slowly, as he had done since Naruto left because there was no one to compete with in terms of eating outside of his own clan.
You and me both, Choji. I never thought I'd say this, but Naruto not being here is more troublesome than him not being here, and I actually wish to see a prank with his signature written all over it, Shikamaru said as he joined his friend in eating here, and felt that Naruto not being here was like taking all the clouds out of the sky.
Hey guys, did you hear? Hinata and Neji met the demon guy. Exclaimed Ino as she entered the ramen shop and noticed her teammates' surprised expressions. They did? Are they all right? Shikamaru wondered, knowing this guy's reputation and fearing for his friends' lives. Yeah, they are. Thank Kami on that one, right? Hinata had a run-in with Mizuki, who escaped from prison, and the demon guy interfered by killing Mizuki before he could do anything to Hinata, Ino said, as she had been telling anyone who would listen, and saw her friends breathing a sigh of relief because Hinata being hurt, if not worse, was not something they could handle right now. While I'm glad Hinata-san is safe, it begs the question of why this guy let her go, and Neji for that matter. Shikamaru wondered, as he sensed something was off but couldn't put his finger on it. Perhaps he doesn't kill women, Ino said as she sat down and ordered something for herself because she needed the energy to tell everyone what she knew. Doesn't kill women? That's it. Ino, you're a genius despite your dumb blonde ways, Shikamaru said as he dashed off to investigate something and then inform the Hokage if his findings were correct. Thanks Shika. Hey wait. Come back here Shikamaru and I'll show you a dumb blonde. Screamed Ino, before realizing she had insulted herself by saying that last part. Hokage Tower, 3 days later. Are you certain your findings on this data are correct? Tsunade asked, as Shikamaru and Shino stood before her, going over what had been discovered, and seeing that it was indeed interesting. We went over our findings twice, Hokage-sama. Apparently, this particular individual has yet to kill a single female shinobi during his hunts, if you want to call them that, because not many women become shinobi in shinobi villages, and even fewer leave to become missing nin. If we send female shinobi after this demon guy, I think there is a good chance we can capture him, and if not, then at least kill him, Shino said as. I would hate to send any kind of shinobi team after this demon, much less a team of only female shinobi, but you may have a point in this regard, and I'll select some people for this mission, Tsunade said, knowing that the shinobi council would be furious, as would the female shinobi, who were terrified of this guy for what he does to his victims. Thank you, Hokage-sama. On a much different subject, has there been any word from Uzumaki Naruto, and if he is returning anytime soon? Asked Shino, as his teammate and, in a way, the Aburame missed the blonde. I'm sorry, Shino, Tsunade said, but I can't bring Naruto back to the leaf just yet, and the fire daimyo has been swamped with his own duties as of late to even process the request to rescind the banishment order. I understand, Hokage-sama. Excuse me while I inform my teammates, Shino said as he left the room with the woman, leaving only Shikamaru in the room. Do you have anything else to say that you couldn't say in front of Shino? Tsunade asked, seeing Nara scratch his head and look nervous about asking something. Shikamaru picked up this habit from his father before saying something that resulted in him being whacked in the back of the head with a frying pan by the woman who ruled both of them until the younger Nara got himself a wife to whip him. Yeah. I know it sounds strange, but there appears to be a
pattern in regards to this guy's appearance that you haven't seen, or quite possibly ignoring for a certain reason, Shikamaru said as he noticed Tsunade now narrowing her eyes at him, and the lazy Nara knew he was one word away from being punched straight to his house before his mother sent him back after hearing he upset the female Hokage.
And what kind of pattern is that, Shikamaru? I would advise you to choose your words very carefully, Tsunade said, as she noticed Shikamaru sweating heavily and knew he was going to say something she didn't like. Troublesome.
You'll probably punch me out of this room no matter what I say, so I'll just come out and say it before you can.
I think from what I've seen, this demon, maybe
Naruto, Shikamaru said, as he saw Tsunade's eyes widen at his words, and then did exactly what he expected her to do.
Throw him out of the room. That idiot Baka. Shikamaru has a lot of guts. This monster is not Naruto.
Naruto would not have the heart to do what was done to Konoha shinobi and other shinobi from other villages, Tsunade thought angrily as she sat down, trying to calm herself from the rage that those words had instilled in her. Even with the sudden rage gone, the words had brought up an important point that Tsunade had in fact ignored, possibly subconsciously,
and that she also didn't want to accept as true regardless of whether she saw it or not.
Tsunade still remembered Naruto before his exile, and she couldn't imagine that boy full of life being transformed into this thing that brutally destroys everything in its path.
A creature that skins people, stealing their skulls and, in some cases, their spinal columns. Tsunade's doubts began to grow as she realized the simple truth, that shortly after Naruto disappeared, this monster of a man appeared. Tsunade closed her eyes and prayed to Kami that it wasn't true before summoning Shizune to her office for an assignment that none of the female shinobi would enjoy. 4 days later, Rice Country Sound Village. Orochimaru was upset, which was nothing new given the loss of the Uchiha, and had been in such a foul mood that even Kabuto had to be extra cautious when approaching the Sannin. Orochimaru had already gone through a new body 3 years ago and needed another soon, as the consequences of not having a body were death. Orochimaru-sama, the body you require is ready and waiting for your soul to enter it, Kabuto said, knowing that this would make his master both happy and angry because it wasn't the Uchiha's body.
Good.
I need to enter my new body now or else everything will be lost, Orochimaru said as he made his way to the room designated for such an occasion, extending his life by 3 years. What the snake Sannin saw when he arrived was not what Orochimaru expected, nor was it what Kabuto expected, because the vessel chosen was not in the condition it was left in. The body, or rather what was left of it, was splattered all over the room, which infuriated Orochimaru. This is terrible. There are no other vessels in sound for Orochimaru-sama to claim now, thought Kabuto, who saw this, in his mind, horrible travesty and then looked at an enraged Orochimaru. You have some explaining to do, Kabuto, said Orochimaru, believing that this was Kabuto's way of betraying him in his hour of weakness, and intending to kill the boy before the betrayal was completed. Oh Orochimaru-sama, ID did not cause this carnage, exclaimed Kabuto, fearing for his life as he saw the snake Sannin preparing to unleash his rage on him. If you didn't, as you claim Kabuto, then who did? Demanded Orochimaru, who demanded answers now. And Orochimaru got his answers when he sensed something behind him and leapt out of the way just in time for a red chakra blast to hit Kabuto in the chest. Rolling to the side, Orochimaru noticed Kabuto was now dead on the ground, his wound in the chest steaming with the intense heat the chakra had hit him with, the wound instantly cauterizing, and had a faraway look that told the Sannin that even Kabuto couldn't believe this had happened to him. Orochimaru of the Sannin, you will make an excellent hunt, and your head will be a nice trophy for my collection, said the unseen figure in the room, causing the Sannin in the room to narrow his eyes and look at the door. I don't think so, Orochimaru thought as he ran to the door, but was stopped when red lasers crisscrossed and blocked his path out of the room. Turning around, Orochimaru noticed an uncloaked figure ready for a fight with a dual spear-like weapon in hand and heard a growling sound. In his current state, Orochimaru knew this person was not to be taken lightly and that he needed to be punished for killing his new vessel alongside Kabuto, to a certain extent. After performing countless experiments on himself in the pursuit of immortality, the snake Sannin revealed to the masked figure his true form as a large albino snake comprised of many much smaller snakes. Seeing this, the masked figure extended his right wrist blades and brought out his chakram, which in common parlance would have meant smart disc, with his other hand. Orochimaru let out an inhuman cry as bloodlust consumed him, and he could tell his masked foe was feeling the same way. The Sannin struck with deadly speed and precision, intending to bite his prey in half, but instead found himself eating the wall. The masked figure saw an opportunity and unleashed his chakram on Orochimaru, severing the giant snake in half. However, as the disc bounced off a wall and back to him, the Sannin reconnected his lower body. When the masked hunter saw this, he put away his chakram and prepared his combi stick for use against the Sannin. Orochimaru opened his jaws wide as he charged forward, faked left before moving right, and wrapped his body around the masked hunter after dodging the thrown spear weapon. Grinning triumphantly, the Sannin squeezed harder, attempting to make the masked figure's head pop while laughing. The Sannin's victory, however, was cut short when pain shot through his skull and Orochimaru was struck in the head by the combi stick thrown away by the masked hunter. The combi stick was a henge, his opponent was a shadow clone, and the real masked hunter had used the real combi stick to pierce the Sannin's skull. Orochimaru screamed in agony as he struggled to get the weapon out of his skull, while the masked figure drew his shuriken and threw it at the Sannin repeatedly, the injuries leaving cuts before the combi stick came free. Orochimaru swung his tail at the masked figure, pleased to see he had hit his target, and wrapped his form around his prey once more. The masked hunter moved quickly, taking a canister of blue solvent in his left hand and using his wrist blade to counter the Kusanagi sword that came out of Orochimaru's mouth. "Chew on this," exclaimed the masked hunter as he tossed the canister of blue solvent into the Sannin's mouth and heard the glass shatter as the solvent was swallowed down the monster snake's throat. Orochimaru screamed in agony as the solvent began destroying his body, leaving only a simple blood stain on the ground after it had completed its course through his system.
Still, it was against the masked hunter's beliefs to leave without a trophy for such a well-fought hunt, so he set out to search Orochimaru's lair for an item that could become a trophy.
Not before directing his plasma canister at Kabuto's head and blowing it off to ensure the man was truly dead. Konoha Hokage Tower, 2 weeks later. Do you understand the mission I'm giving you? If you want to back out of this mission, now is the time, and I won't blame you, Tsunade said, looking around at the group of shinobi women in front of her, each one unique. Mitarashi Anko, Azuki Yugo, Yuhi Kurenai, Inuzuka Hana, and Hyuga Hinata stood before her, all brought together for the sole purpose of hunting down a common foe. Although Hinata was not one of the shinobi Tsunade preferred, the Hyuga girl was the only one who could possibly stall the demon shinobi long enough for him to be taken down and unmasked before being interrogated for information. We understand the mission, Hokage-sama. We find, capture, and/or kill this guy before we find out who he is, Anko said, intrigued by this guy and wondering if he killed women because he was chivalrous or because he thought women were weak. Correct. But I don't need to remind you to be on your guard because everyone this monster had faced had met gruesome deaths, and one false move could be your end, Tsunade said as she saw them nod, and they were all ready to go forward with this mission. When the group of young women left the Hokage's office, Shino and Kiba were waiting for Hinata, because he didn't want two people he cared about to go on a suicide mission that would get them skinned alive, if not worse. Kiba-kun. Shino-kun. What are you doing here? Hinata asked her Team 8 teammates, who were concerned about her. We came to hope you would reconsider this mission. Many in the village would fall into depression if anything happened to you, and if you die, Naruto will never know that you said Shino, as he remained silent when Hinata blushed slightly at that part, but remained strong in not backing out of this mission, and had a determined look on her face. I appreciate it from both of you, but I have to do this mission, Hinata said, and strangely enough, I feel like I have to do it to find Naruto-kun, as if there is a part of myself deep in my very soul telling me that by going on this mission I will see him again and tell him how I feel. While such a thing is highly improbable given Naruto Unknown San's location at the moment, stranger things have happened recently, and I do wish for such an event to happen, Shino said as he bowed his head and walked away without saying anything else. Yeah, what he said, Hinata-chan, and if you see Naruto Baka, tell him I want a rematch, and I won't let a simple fart beat me, Kiba said as he hugged Hinata and left to talk to his sister about reconsidering doing this mission. A week later, somewhere in a forest of fire country. The Demon of Shinobi, as he was known in the shinobi world, leapt from tree to tree in an acrobatic display before coming to a halt on a tree when he heard a sound not far away. Looking down below, the the hunter noticed the forms of two people walking side by side and exchanging friendly banter. The taller one was clearly taller than the other, as he wielded a sword that was currently strapped to his back, and the shorter one spoke only at certain points in the conversation. They were Akatsuki organization members Uchiha Itachi and Hoshigaki Kisame. The masked hunter grinned at the generous hunt in front of him, as it had been a while since he had a good hunt, and what better way to have a good one than with these two. They were strong, skilled, and would last much longer than the weaklings he was used to hunting on occasion. "Hey Itachi, you feel him, don't you?"
Kisame asked quietly to his partner as they both stared straight ahead.
"Yes. He's above us. Be cautious, Kisame, there's a reason this person is an S-class criminal, and is feared by all the shinobi villages in the elemental countries," Itachi said calmly, but with a slight edge that told Kisame to draw his sword in an instant. "Yeah, I know Itachi. What he does to his victims creeps me out, and that's saying a lot considering who I am," Kisame said, as he felt that such a way to die was no way for a shinobi to die, and it sent a chill down his spine. Before anything else could be said, the figure in question landed about 15 feet in front of them with a loud thud, deactivating his cloaking device and staring at the two S-class missing nins for a second, his masked eyes flashing red. Kisame could see why Pain wanted this scary guy to join the Akatsuki organization, as he was undoubtedly physically strong and not afraid to kill in a brutal manner. Itachi was wary of this figure because the mask would prevent him from using his Sharingan's standard powers, and there was no record of the man's abilities, making him an enigma. A puzzle. "Greetings, Demon of Shinobi. We are members of the Akatsuki organization and wish to offer you membership on behalf of our leader. He recognizes your talents and wishes for you to put them to better use with our group. Do you accept?" Itachi said as he noticed the figure cock his head to the right, then to the left, and heard a strange growling noise from the masked hunter. "No," the masked hunter said as he vanished, drawing his wrist blades once he was out of their line of sight. "Well. At least we can tell Pain-sama we tried," Kisame said, drawing his sword while Itachi remained motionless, allowing the enemy to make the first move. A faint whirling sound drew the young Uchiha's attention, and he turned around to see a pair of multi-bladed discs spinning towards him, before leaping away with Kisame to avoid the weapons. Those were just distractions, as a sound near Kisame drew the man's attention, and years of keeping his senses sharp from countless battles now saved him from losing his head after dodging a spear-like weapon thrown at his shark-like head. Itachi intervened with a fire jutsu, but the intended target had already moved on, looking for a better position to claim his prey. Kisame prepared his sword for another attack while looking around for his now invisible prey and concentrating on using his other senses to find him. Hearing a thump sound behind him, Kisame swung hard on his right side, his sword striking tree bark as he missed whatever was standing there, and it was only later that he realized his mistake. Kisame's prey had been baited, leaping from the spot now in front of him, over the Akatsuki member's head, and landing behind the man before completing the swing. The figure was now facing Kisame's exposed back, his wrist blades extended to their full extent, and he stabbed the man from behind. Only for Kisame to dissolve into water. "Gotcha!" exclaimed Kisame as he slashed the man in half from above. Before going poof, indicating that the figure Kisame had slain was a shadow clone, which surprised both members of Akatsuki. Before Kisame could react to this shocking news, the figure struck by launching a bolt of crimson chakra from his position above the shark man, striking him directly in the chest and right through the heart while the body did not turn to water. This meant that the Akatsuki member was the real deal and was now dead, with his killer turning his attention to the other half of this pairing. "I must flee and report this turn of events to Pain-sama," Itachi thought as he took off with Kisame's killer hot on his tail, intending to add his life to Kisame's. Itachi had seen the chakra bolt that had struck Kisame and confirmed it by using his Sharingan eyes on the attack. Only one person had Kyuubi's chakra running through his body, and that person was thought to have vanished several years ago. His train of thought was interrupted when he dodged another pair of spinning multi-bladed discs, and then again when the strange spear weapon collided with a tree in front of him. Itachi then jumped back, drawing his own sword in his right hand and a kunai in his left, his Sharingan now activated. "Gotcha!" exclaimed a warped version of Kisame, prompting Itachi to look up before his eyes widened and he rolled to his right to avoid the large body mass that was his enemy. "Amaterasu!" exclaimed Itachi as he used one of his Sharingan's high-level powers to permanently end his foe and consume the hunter in the dark fire. Itachi sighed, winced at the blood leaking from his eyes, which had returned to their normal dark orbs, and struggled to stay on his feet. "Hey Itachi," said a slightly less warped voice that sounded like Kisame, prompting the Uchiha clan killer to turn around and be greeted by a pair of wrist blades entering his stomach and lifting him up while he cried out in pain. "This can't be happening," Itachi thought as he felt the blades leave his body, then instant death when the masked hunter pulled out a sword and slashed his head clean off. "Two hunts. Two pairs of trophies," the masked hunter said, walking with his prize and Itachi's ringed hand back to Kisami's corpse to collect on both body parts as well. Something to show who had died at his hands, as he had done with Orochimaru's original ring-covered hand. Also, 4 days later. "Did you track him from where Hinata met him?" Anko asked, as she noticed Hana using her Inuzuka senses to track the scent of the masked hunter and following him all the way to this location. "Yeah, it's strange, but his scent is all over the place and yet fresh. It's no more than a few minutes, if not more," Hana said, as they had been tracking this guy for a while and finally caught his scent after a supposed sighting. "Keep your guard up. If he's around here somewhere, it means he knows we're here and hunting him," Yugo said as she prepared for battle, while Hinata searched for him with her Byakugan once more. "I'm not going to die on this or any other mission. Not until I tell Naruto-kun how I feel," Hinata reasoned, looking around for anything that might reveal this foe's position and help her team. The group of female shinobi moved cautiously forward, trying to track down any traces of the masked hunter. They knew he was close and that he was watching them, with the wrong move potentially being their last. "They were brave, but foolish," said the dark voice, as the masked hunter's eyes flashed red in his cloaked form and he watched them from the trees above until the time was right to strike. "He's close. I sense bloodlust all around us," Anko said as she felt everyone stiffen and form a defensive circle formation in preparation for a fight. The masked hunter's opportunity had arrived. Leaping from the tree, he landed acrobatically in the center of the circle formation and attacked with taijutsu that seemed inhuman to perform given the man's size. Anko attempted to use her hidden shadow snake jutsu on the man, but he tore them apart with his sword and hit the woman in the face with a spin kick that sent her flying into a nearby tree. Hana leapt on top of him and tried to bite into the side of his neck with her claws while digging into his skin, but was thrown off with one hand by his incredible strength and was unaffected by Kurenai's own attempts to cast a genjutsu on him. As a result, the shocked young woman was kneed in the breadbasket before being elbowed in the back to increase the impact of her body on the ground. Given her sword skills, Azuki Yugo had the best of luck when she attacked him with Hayate's old sword and began clashing with the masked hunter's own sword. Sparks flew from their swords, connecting with Yugo, who knew she couldn't match her foe's strength because it was far greater than her own, and hoped her sword skills would be enough to take him down. When the masked hunter feinted to the left, Sweep kicked the Anbu woman off her feet and took the sword right out of Yugo's hands, much to her horror. "This sword belonged to Gecko Hayate," the masked figure said as he examined the sword with an appraising eye and noticed Yugo staring at him. "So?" Yugo asked, surprised by this and wondering how this man knew about her lover. "I just find it odd you'd try to kill me when in reality I killed your lover's murderer," exclaimed the masked hunter as he threw the blade into a tree, piercing the trunk all the way to the hilt and seeing Yugo's stunned expression. "And you expect me to show some sort of gratitude for that?" Yugo asked, as she noticed Hinata moving in behind the figure, as if waiting for something to happen. "Perhaps. Though for me, it was returning the favor to someone who actually knows the difference between a kunai and a scroll that holds it. He defended me when I was little and chose to honor a wish that no one else had the foresight to do so themselves out of their own arrogance," said the masked hunter in a cryptic tone, but turned his head when he heard Hinata's gasp of understanding behind him, and leapt. "Hinata!" exclaimed Kurenai as she rose from the ground and attempted to rush the hunter with a kunai in hand, forcing him to drop the girl in order to defend himself. The masked hunter, on the other hand, leapt back into the thicket, and the women on the ground below could almost feel the smile on his face. "It's been a long time since I smelled the scent lavender. I had nearly forgotten," the masked hunter said as he let Hinata's scent fill his senses, only to see the others below jump up to intercept him. "Give her back right now," demanded Kurenai, adamant that she would not lose her student to this monster and would make him pay for the attempt. "I will, of course. She and I have a lot to catch up on," the masked figure said as he leapt away and shot a chakra bolt from his shoulder plasma canister at the tree's base, causing it to fall in the general direction of the group, giving him time to flee. The two were gone in an instant, and the group of female shinobi felt fear grip their hearts like never before. The most pure of them was just taken to Kami knows where by a demonic hunter who took skulls as trophies about the missing heads, if Inoichi's beliefs were correct. The female shinobi of the leaf pursued the masked hunter, using his scent mixed with Hinata's to follow the strange trail the man was taking to flee. Hana cursed at the problem in front of her as Hinata's scent went in multiple different directions, which confused her because it should be possible, and each woman broke off towards each path Hinata pointed to. When Kurenai came down her path, she prayed to Kami that Hinata was okay, and she was planning various ways to torture this monster before putting him to death. There was even a glimmer of hope in her mind, because the masked hunter had more than enough time to kill them all but chose not to, implying that there was some truth to the idea that this monster doesn't kill women. "If that's true, he'll soon change his mind when I'm done with him and wish he'd tried to kill me," Kurenai thought as she saw Hinata being carried away by the masked hunter's uncloaked form. The masked figure, on the other hand, came to a halt on a tree branch before turning around to face Kurenai as he set the girl down, and then looked the Hyuga's former sensei in her crimson eyes. Kurenai kept her guard mostly up, and Kunai drew in both hands to give him twice the pain for his troubles. "You are engaging in dangerous behavior, Yuhi Kurenai. I thought leaf shinobi attacked in groups of two?" said the masked shinobi mockingly as he saw Kurenai glare even harder at him and tried to figure out a way around him to get to Hinata. "Give Hinata back, monster, or I'll show you what a pair of kunai in my hands can do when I'm angry," Kurenai said as she waited for an opening to grab Hinata and flee with the unconscious girl. "Really? Sorry to disappoint you, but I don't have Hinata, and neither do the other versions of myself you're after." The masked hunter spoke as Hinata transformed into a shadow clone of him, holding Hinata's thick jacket. "What?" exclaimed Kurenai as she witnessed the shadow clone, poof, and vanish before her eyes. "You should be commended for attempting to save Hinata from me, Yuhi Kurenai, but it was all for naught, and you and the others will have to report to your Hokage that you've lost someone you hold dear to your heart," said the masked hunter, as he also went, poof, to indicate that he was a shadow clone, and saw the woman's shocked expression before the memory returned to the original. Kurenai could only fall to her knees and scream in agony at the thought of losing her favorite student to the likes of her kidnapper. Unknown location, unknown time later. Hinata groaned in minor agony as she struggled to awaken from the forced slumber caused by her capture, and when she opened her eyes, she found herself on a bed in a dimly lit room. Hinata realized what had happened as her senses returned to her before sitting up and checking her body to make sure it was still whole, with the exception of one thing. She was dressed inappropriately. She wasn't naked by any means, as she still wore her dark gray shirt, bra, and panties, but Hinata wondered how he got to be this way. So the young Hyuga girl got out of the surprisingly comfortable bed before slowly letting her feet touch the cold floor, which made her jump slightly, and walked towards the room's exit, which oddly enough had no door. When Hinata walked out of the room, she found herself in a dark corridor with little lighting to guide her path, touching the rough walls with strange glyph designs on them as she made her way to what she felt was the heart of this place. And she was correct. Hinata saw a large circular room covered from the knees up in dense fog, 4 stone-like pillars covered with strange designs near the center, a wide variety of strange exotic weapons never before seen by possibly anyone in the elemental countries on a wall closest to her right, and across the room was what made her let out an almost inaudible gasp. Across from her, Hinata noticed a wall with various skulls mounted like trophies, as well as various other items that indicated that the people who once held them were dead, and were taken instead of the skulls if such a part of the physical body was damaged. Hinata walked towards the wall filled with trophies, collected from the victims of the masked hunter for reasons unknown to her, and read some of the names listed beneath the skulls with the shinobi headband to prove where they were from. Some of these people she recognized because they were from the Leaf, but others were those who had once harmed Naruto as a child and had been let go without punishment with orders to take posts outside of the village until they no longer despised the blonde. They eventually returned, but their hatred remained, and everyone who knew these now dead shinobi was aware of it. Hinata's thoughts on the trophy wall were cut short when she heard a growling noise and felt a bad feeling in the pit of her stomach before turning around to see what was making the noise. Sure enough, a few feet away from Hinata stood the ever-tall and imposing form of the masked hunter, his face obscured by the mask he wore. As far as she could tell, he wasn't armed, save for his armor and clawed hands, which appeared to be sharp enough to cut through steel. Hinata was terrified internally at the sight of such an imposing warrior before her, as she had never seen anything like him before, and even the first time she saw him paled in comparison to now. However, Hinata knew she had to figure out who she thought was behind the mask, and if it was who she thought it was. Hinata didn't care if she died at his hands later because it would be without regret, and she would know the one simple truth that mattered to her now above all others. Are you enjoying the small sample collection? As he noticed the section of trophies she was looking at, the masked hunter noticed it was skulls collected from the shinobi of the Leaf. Small sample? Hinata wondered, recalling the bingo book, which stated that the masked hunter in front of her had killed hundreds of people, despite the fact that there were only a dozen or so skulls, some with spines still attached, on the wall. Do you know why I spared you, Hyuga Hinata? Asked the masked hunter, seeing her look from the wall to him and seeing how terrified she was right now. And no, Hinata said, partially lying because she did have a clue but was afraid to speak it and be wrong, as she feared she would be. You're lying, the masked hunter said almost amusedly, as he saw Hinata jump a little in fright at the fact that he knew she lied, red in the face, and began spilling out one apology after another in the hopes she wouldn't be his next trophy. Father was right, I was never really good at lying, and I was too innocent for my own good when it came to talking to others, Hinata thought, as she had never really lied in her life and tried to avoid it entirely. I always thought it was cute how you blushed, Hinata-chan, the masked hunter said, as he saw her look up at him, her eyes widening with a look of realization. And Naruto-kun? Is that you? Hinata spoke with hope in her voice and eyes as he began to raise his hand to his mask. I'll let you judge for yourself, Hinata-chan, but you might not like what you see, and you might come to hate me, the man said as he slowly removed the various tubes connected to his mask and wrapped both hands around it before pausing to take it off when the girl in front of him grabbed his wrists. Let me be the judge of that Naruto-kun, Hinata said, knowing in her heart that it was him and that he feared what she thought of him. So, after a long pause, the two removed his mask together, and Hinata came face to face with the man whom the elemental countries feared. Naruto's face had a more reptilian appearance now, as it was smoother and shiner like a snake's, but not as pale as Orochimaru's. In terms of features, Naruto's whisker marks were more noticeable now, his teeth were more animistic, and his once blue eyes were now a demonic red. It was then that Hinata noticed his hair was spiky but not, and looked like the strange hairstyle known as dreadlocks, which were red while the spiky part was blonde. On his face were little spikes of what appeared to be hair, but they gave him a fierce warrior look and made anyone seeing Naruto's face think twice about fighting him. "So, what do you think of me?" said Naruto, dropping the mask into the fog that covered the floor of the room and allowing Hinata to run her hand over his face as she scrutinized every inch of him. "I believe. Despite the changes you've made to yourself, I believe you're still Naruto-kun to me." Hinata felt a shiver run down her spine as she touched his face and realized she was so close to him after so many years. "Hinata-chan, you are not the same girl I knew years ago. You've evolved. You've grown stronger as a shinobi, but also as a beautiful woman, and I've kicked myself every day since I discovered your feelings for me. I should have paid more attention to you, rather than that pink-haired fangirl Banshee, and showered you with affection fit for a goddess." While Hinata blushed a new shade of red, Naruto eyed her up and down, a hint of amusement in his voice. "Gee, goddess? Me? Why is he looking at me like that? Oh Kami, I'm half naked," thought Hinata, as she realized she had been talking to Naruto in little to no clothing the entire time, and tried to cover herself up while blushing from head to toe in red. "Don't be afraid, Hinata-chan. You have nothing to be ashamed of." Naruto smiled down at her and took a full step closer, their bodies barely inches apart. "What about my teammates who were there with me?" Hinata tried not to focus on Naruto's body, the fact that they were so close right now, and he was looking at her with eyes that seemed to see through what she was wearing. "They couldn't follow after I took you away. They tried to find me using your scent, but after removing a few articles of your clothing and hanging into you with a few of my shadow clones." Naruto said this as he allowed the implication of how he deceived the female Inuzuka to enter Hinata's mind, making her blush even more knowing what he had done to put her in this state of being half naked. "By now, they've reported me captured, if not dead by your hands, and Tsunade-sama will demand your head," Hinata said as she felt his hand on her face and leaned in, certain he would never hurt her. "Not if you return to Konoha and tell them I want to be a part of the village," Naruto said, seeing Hinata look at him in surprise, then wrap her form around him before shaking her head no. "No. Naruto-kun, you can't. Officially, you are still banished, and if you return now, even wearing a mask, Tsunade may order your execution. Not to mention that you killed so many Leaf Shinobi that it would be political suicide to let you go without some sort of physical punishment." Hinata expressed her displeasure at the prospect of Naruto being placed in a room full of shinobi who had previously despised Naruto and now, knowing full well, would attempt to destroy him. "Just tell the old hag that I have to come in as a condition. Tsunade believes that we are two separate people, and she is willing to make that happen if it means that I am captured within her walls." Naruto said this as he felt Hinata tighten her grip on him and the scent of lavender filled his senses. "She'll want to know why you made such a strange request," Hinata predicted, knowing Tsunade wasn't an idiot and would wonder if the two weren't the same. "Tell her that I know everything about Naruto's past and that I respect him far too much to pass up this opportunity to return him to his home. With full immunity on all charges against him and, of course, full restitution to his person for past crimes committed against him by the Leaf, Naruto knew Hinata could pull this off, and that by doing so, he could get everything he wanted from the Leaf. And even more. I'm not very good at lying, Hinata admitted as she heard his heartbeat, which made her feel sleepy. Still, I have faith in you, Hinata-chan, and I know you can pull this off if you believe in yourself, Naruto said smoothly into her ear, making her body heat up. When do I return? I don't want to abandon you, Hinata clung to him, wanting to ask him so many questions. Hinata-chan, I know you don't. What about when you return? How do you feel about a few days? Naruto growled into her ear, and Hinata closed her eyes and lost herself in the moment. That sounds good, Naruto-kun, Hinata said, falling asleep again and collapsing into his form. Well, it took a decade, but you finally got the girl of your dreams, and even I must admit you caught yourself quite the vixen, Kyuubi said, as he sensed Naruto becoming irritated by this and mentally scowled at the fox. Fox, shut up. Don't make me turn your cage pink and bring out Barney again, thought Naruto, remembering how the fox had teased him about this for the previous 3 years, and how he had only used it once to make the Kyuubi think twice about the teasing. Okay. What a knucklehead. Kyuubi thought to himself. What was that? Thought Naruto, daring Kyuubi to repeat what he said. I exclaimed, what an itch, because I have an itch on my back. Kyuubi spoke quickly because he didn't want to face Barney or the pink room. Right. Yes, you do. I'll let it slide for the time being because I'm with Hinata-chan, but don't push your luck, and remember. I adore you. You adore me. If you piss me off again, I'll just reintroduce you to Barney, Naruto thought as he felt the fox shiver and retreat to the darkness of his cell. Naruto-kun, Hinata said, clearly sleeping, and Naruto scooped her up in his arms before carrying her to a more appropriate bed than the one she was in previously. Konoha 3 days later. I can't believe this has happened, Tsunade said as she read Kurenai's report over and over again, trying to read over the teardrop marks the genjutsu mistress made while writing it. When the team returned, Tsunade could tell right away that something had gone wrong due to the absence of one member, and he heard everything about the battle that led up to Hinata's capture. How each of the women split up to follow Hinata's scent when it became dispersed, only to discover that the masked hunter had used shadow clones to henge into Hinata while holding a single piece of clothing that she once wore. Worse, the significance of the lack of clothing, and how it could put the young Hyuga heiress in a situation that many young female shinobi should not be in at that age, was revealed. Tsunade was still debating whether to label Hinata Mia or Kia because the latter was also a possibility if the masked hunter decided to end her life. Tsunade-sama, Tsunade-sama. Please come quickly. Shizune rushed into the room, panting from her marathon run from the Konoha streets to the office. She was out of shape in that department after not being on the run for 3 years. What? Shizune, what exactly is it? Tsunade observed the woman's face, which was filled with joy and surprise. Hinata is the name. She's back, and she's still alive. Shizune ran out of the office to see the Hyuga girl herself after seeing Tsunade's eyes widen in disbelief. Sometime later, Konoha streets. Hinata smiled as she walked into Konoha with a glow you wouldn't expect from a girl who had gone on a failed mission to track down a notorious S-ranked criminal and was captured in the process. Naruto had given her clothes to wear when she left because he couldn't send her back the way he did because it would attract many men for lustful purposes, and he, the former leaf shinobi turned hunter, couldn't let that happen. Hinata! Exclaimed Kurenai as she learned of the return of one of her former students, and she hugged the girl tightly. It's all right, Kurenai-sensei. I'm perfectly fine. Really? Hinata noticed Kurenai inspecting her with careful eyes and knew the woman suspected something had happened to her. Are you sure? Did that monster do you any harm? Did you get raped? Torment you? Kurenai looked into the girl's eyes for any signs of Hinata hiding those facts, but found nothing to confirm the Junin's worst fears. Kurenai-sensei. I stated that I was fine. The masked hunter only kidnapped me so that we could communicate and deliver a message to the Hokage, Hinata said as she saw Kurenai frown at that, but it might make some sense, and she wondered if that was true. Alright, let's take you to the Hokage, who will. said Kurenai, who came to a halt when the Hokage arrived and appeared before them, his eyes fixed on Hinata. I'm glad you're alive, Hinata, but we need to talk privately in my office, and tell me about what you saw while with that monster, Tsunade said, as she saw Hinata nod her head, but with a serious look on her face that surprised the female fire shadow, who wondered what had changed in the younger woman. Yes. We have a lot to say about Hokage-sama and Naruto return Kun's, Hinata said as she saw the Hokage, and Kurenai frowned because this had been on the younger girl's mind since the banishment began. How does that relate to your experience with the masked hunter Hinata? Kurenai wondered if the masked hunter had offered her something the Hokage couldn't regarding the blonde as she saw her former student look at her. It has something to do with the deal he wants to make with the Hokage. The masked hunter told me that upon entering Konoha's walls, he will offer himself up in exchange for Naruto banishment Kun's from Konoha being lifted. He also wants Naruto-kun to have full immunity for any crimes the two councils accuse him of committing in the past, as well as restitution for the crimes Konoha committed against Naruto for the Kyuubi. Hinata observed Tsunade's eyes budge out of their sockets and her jaw drop, as did Kurenai. Why would the masked hunter do something like this now? The two haven't even met yet. Have they done so? Kurenai felt something was off about this and knew the Hokage did as well. No, but the masked hunter is aware of Naruto past Kun's in Konoha, as well as the injustice done to him by the Leaf. He admires Naruto-kun for putting up with this and wishes he could return here to get what the Leaf denied him. Hinata wondered if that was true as she looked at the two women looking back at her with suspicion. And he's willing to hand himself over to the Leaf in exchange for Naruto returning and reclaiming everything rightfully his? Tsunade said this as she looked Hinata in the eyes and saw the Hyuga girl nod her head yes. Yes, Hinata said as she noticed Tsunade thinking about it, and Kurenai was also looking at the Hokage for her response to this deal. What are your thoughts? Is this some sort of trap? Kurenai whispered to the Hokage as she looked back at Hinata, then back at the Hokage. Maybe. We'll agree to the terms for the time being, but if this guy causes any trouble, I want him dead at the hands of our Anbu, and within a single second, Tsunade said this as she looked at Hinata and saw the girl waiting for a response. How will he even know we agreed to the deal? Kurenai explained that they now had no way of contacting the masked hunter, which made things difficult. He is aware. The masked hunter is using a shadow clone to hear everything on Konoha's wall, Hinata said, pointing to where the two older women saw the figure look at them with flashing red eyes before going, poof. Well, that solves that problem, but you still need to tell me what happened while you were his captive Hinata, Tsunade said, sternly looking at the girl, who was not afraid to answer her questions. I understand, Hokage-sama, Hinata said as she walked to the tower with the Hokage and Kurenai to tell them everything they needed to know about the masked hunter.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.